Election Watch 2013. I'm your host, Teresa Wippel, and today we are talking with Al Rutledge, who is candidate for council position number 2. Al, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So we'd like to start out by having you tell us about yourself, your background, and why you want to be on the Edmonds City Council.
Well, the main thing is I like to be a part of the city office. Been going to meetings for several years, and I'm running against an opponent this year that I feel that we need a change. And the biggest change is the projected revenue. This year, 2013, is $10.8 million, and I believe that I should be the elected person to bring this up to the city council, and I would suggest that the city take down the senior center. I've been on 2 committees in the past, years ago. I take that funding. You can lease the building out to tenants to come in, and that'll be increased revenue. And also my opponent is voted for 25 to 30 feet building heights in this town, and you don't need building heights. You got almost $11 million in the bank. Voted for increased taxes. You don't need those projects in this city at all, and that's why we need a change. I get on the council to bring this up to senior centers should be down, take it out, but leave the forms in the bottom and everything in. That way there, you can rebuild the same size. You have income coming in, lease money coming in, no cost to the taxpayers. That is what we got to do. $11 million, and we rejected, and 6 years from now, $19 million in the bank. And that's one reason I'm running for council, is that we need a change. We need to run our government better.
Well, I certainly want to ask you more about the idea of getting rid of the senior center, because I think there'll probably be some people who will be interested in that topic. But first, tell us a little bit about how long you've lived in Edmonds and what your background is.
Well, I've been going to council meetings since 1988 for several years, and I've been on several committees in the city.
And you've lived in Edmonds for a long time,
for
right?
1986.
Okay.
I started coming to meetings in 1989, and that was because of the zoning issue that we had up in Ballinger. I moved over with my folks that were on Ballinger Road, and they wanted to get away from commercial businesses, and on behold, our zoning was a business in the area there, so that's why we started coming down to the meetings and went that route.
Okay, got it. Well, I have several questions that I want to ask, but tell me more about, I mean, don't you think a lot of people are going to be upset with the idea of getting rid of the senior center?
You're not getting rid of the senior center. You're taking the senior center down and rebuilding the senior center. The senior center will still be there.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you said you would get rid of it.
No.
Rebuild it.
You keep the center. You keep the center there. You keep it the same size. You keep it the same size of the building. You keep the same format, and you lease spaces in there to tenants that come in that have revenue coming back to the city, to the taxpayers. I'm not saying taking all this $11 million. You're probably looking at $9 million in there. You got the county, you got the state, you got the federal government coming in with some funding. And I sat on 2 committees before. That senior center, this money we have right now, the city council should be talking about this now to replace the senior center with another building with the same center being there, and you lease it out. And this is a great time to do this. Building heights, you bring it. We don't need raise taxes. We don't need, and I'm just saying that we need a better government in this position to run the city council. I'm running against an opponent that has not said anything like this, and he's been there, and they know better. That's what you got to do with your money. I have a second optional, but this is the one that should be done.
Okay, all right. So let's talk a little bit about the Port of Edmonds' original proposal to incorporate the Harbor Square master plan into the city's comprehensive plan, and the fact that they, of course, withdrew that plan after they didn't get support from the council for it. But the council's still looking at it and still looking at, what they might want to do. What do you think should be done with that? Do you think we should keep on course with it or scrap it?
Well, I'm against building heights. That's the first thing you have. Number two is that this will bring in Harbor Square will lease that property, and it will bring in revenue for them. Secondly, you have construction costs and other expenses that are related to when you lease and your costs, so that should offset the cost. My main problem with this whole thing is I'm against building heights, but if you go down to the city of Seattle, they're building all these building heights, and they're getting a kickback from the builders. And a kickback is not the way to go here in the town, but that plan will not happen because it's not in the plan to give nothing back to the city. So what's the city getting back here? We're not getting anything back. And so building heights is not going to go. We need revenue in the city. That would force revenue, but yet again, by going to the senior center and rebuilding it, another one, lease the property out, you're at the same point, you got lease money coming in, but this money coming in goes to the city. That's the difference.
Okay. So what should the council do with the existing plan that they're looking at for Harbor Square?
I would say you should keep the plan going. You have to go as long as you can. There's 7 council positions here in the city, and it's up to the voters to vote how they want to vote. And if the citizens in town vote the people in that want to raise heights, you're going to have it. And if you vote people in the city that don't want heights, they're not going to have heights. I'm against building heights, so you're not going to get my vote at all for building heights, period.
Okay. I've asked this question of a couple of other council members, and since you've obviously talked a lot about building heights, how do you, as a council member, because it seems to be a divisive issue that people feel really strongly about, as a council member, how would you try to bridge the gap between those who would like to see us doing some more development without heights or with heights, but more development, and those who are against any kind of height change at all? How do you navigate that? Because it seems to be, and you can disagree with me if you'd like, but it seems to me as an observer that whenever somebody talks about heights, all of a sudden everybody gets all worked up and that kind of thing. So how do you go in as a council member and figure out how to maybe get some consensus on the issue, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, in the first place, you don't, I'll put it this way to you on this, talking building heights. You have it down here, this is the honest thing that's going to happen. If the building heights pass down here, they go 65, 70, just go on up and top the hill, and you talk to some of these people up there who've been around a long time, they're going to come in, they're going to go 75, 80, 90. You go up the Highway 99, we already have 100, 125, so my suggestion would be, if I got on the council, if there's enough votes to go building heights, I would go right back to Highway 99 and go 150, 200, because this is 2013. We're looking at probably 6, 7 years out here. So that's the problem you're going to have with being divided, is that you're going to have raise here, raise up, and raise up again. And so that's what their problem is. And then you're coming down to downtown Edmonds here. These owners here are the second, third generation. As far as the report is, they have no intention of selling out. So that might change if that ever happens. But we're talking 4 to 8 years here of maybe a change. But I'm against building heights right now. I'm just on this. You got to get revenue coming into the city, into your pocket, and the way to do that is take this money, senior center, put another one in there, and try to generate, $20,000-$30,000 more a month in there, 300-400, maybe $500,000 a year come in. That's what you got to generate. You got to have money coming in.
Okay. I don't think anybody disagree with that, but money coming in is a good answer. How to do it maybe is another question. Let's talk about because it's been in the news a lot lately, and I know you've been around a long time and probably seen many discussions about it, but the recent council decision to put cats back into the animal roaming ordinance. Did you have an opinion about that one way or the other, whether that was a good idea?
Well, the cats issue, that the response I'm getting is that this has been going on for several years, and they should leave it like it is.
Which would have been to keep the cats allowed to roam?
Well, that's what the consensus is of the people I've been talking to that have animals. They just tell me that that's where they're at on that issue, and this has been brought up for several years, and they do have animals, and these are animals people that have them. So that's what they tell me.
Yeah, well, what do you think? Do you think
Well,
it's a good idea?
I go along with what people tell me what they think. I'm a believer that way. I'm a believer if you go to a meeting, you got 25 people over here, and you got 5 over here. I want these other people to get another 15, 20 people to come too, because I believe that people are telling me. People that got animals are telling me that this has been going on for several years, and it should remain, the same as it is, and that's what I'm at.
Okay, all right. What do you think, obviously the city has, and you've talked about the senior center as a solution, but the city has had budget issues and of course had to be very conservative in its latest budget, and the projections short term look okay, but long term there are still problems. So are there some solutions other than the senior center that you think would be good to consider in terms of making sure that we have a stable budget over time?
Well, the revenue apparently it keeps coming in here. I gave the projection here. It's almost $11 million is going to be in the bank in the year here, and that's going to go up to $19 million in 5 years. So you're going to have another. You're going to have $2, $3, $4, $5 million every year coming in here if the things keep going like they are. We did have some lean times. Our over budget went $7 to $8 million at that time. And the reason I didn't say anything last election I ran on, because the economy was really down and people were out of work. Same thing today, they're out of work. And but we have bounced back about $3 million revenue more coming in right now into the city. They should take that money and put it to use and to bring in that money into the city. That's what that's the only thing you can do.
So invest it, but invest it how?
Well, that's the only way. That's the only way you can go with the funding. I have another option, but that's not what we want to go with. This one here is the only way to go.
And the senior center is what you're talking about.
Well, that's the only place that I know of that you could take down and rebuild with city property. The city owns other property in the city, but that one there is, you're in a good location. You can bring in different events there. As you know, I went to the meeting the other night, the senior center, they're not doing no more food bank drives. The food bank drives have been discontinued now at there. So if they do go back again and rebuild the building, I'm pretty sure they're looking at a food bank in there, things like that, that would bring in more people in the area there.
Okay, all right. Some critics have said that the city council does too much micromanagement of city affairs. Do you agree with that?
Well, if you think that's the point, you should go with the city manager. You go districts, you have a council member in each district in the city, say there's 7 districts, they report to you have a mayor, but the city manager is the one that does all your business work. I got some calls on that too, and I've been around. People are saying the same thing, that they some of the questions the council was dealing with, they had a city manager, manager would do all that, and they wasted a lot of time at the meetings because that's all city managers work.
So do you favor that idea of
Well,
looking at a city manager?
I'm always for districts here.
So by districts, you mean having a council member represent an individual district
You would
as
have-
opposed to
you-
at large?
You would have 7 districts. You cannot have a fire department there. You might be able to get precincts for the police department, each one, and each one would pay for their own protection. That's what districts do. But you can't do a fire here now, but we could have before. You put each one in. I like to mention the senior center taking down there. You probably put a precinct in there too. You'd have a police car there, maybe an office there too, protection. On the waterfront, that would be all in the cost and everything. That would go in there for protection of the citizens. They would have a 24-hour station there.
Okay. This is a question about the city's reserve fund for litigation, which is now at about $215,000, and that's at 1/3 of what the target was. Do you think that should be replenished before we come up with other uses for that surplus?
Well, reserve fund is in this $11 million.
In the $11 million that you would use for the senior center?
It's $10,868.40 I think it is the projected end balance of this year. And I did speak to the head person today in that department, and I had asked him 3 times on a reserve fund. And on the reserve fund is the same fund as the general fund for funding, and I got insurance that this proposal that I'm talking about can be voted by the city council, and if not, you go with a petition, and the council would vote either way. And the reserve fund money is in this other funding, because I don't think it is, but he said it was. So your reserve fund is in that $10 million. That's where the money's at.
So are you in favor of using that as part of the purchasing or remodeling the senior center? I'm assuming that's what we're talking about with that $11 million.
It's not remodeling the senior center. I don't have the figures here, but it's up to at least $150,000 a year to maintain that senior center. It's that much money.
Right.
And you're throwing that maintenance money out, and that would all come back in when you, if you do that.
Okay.
I got a copy of this on this reserve fund if you want to. I don't know if you could put it up on the screen or not.
Well, no, people probably couldn't see it, but I'll take a look at it later.
Okay.
So talk to me about what you think Edmonds' greatest strength and its greatest weakness is.
Oh, Edmonds is doing very, very well. You got over. You went from $7 million in 11 up to 10 and 13. You got almost $2-3 million a year. Your revenue's coming in, and you had your administration. Of course, a lot of times we have administration change. It takes 6 months a year to carry over and get moving again, and they've done very, very well. But the weakness is that and we have this funding, this money. You got to put this money out to bring in more revenue, and that's where you're at right now. So I think the city, and another thing is you have city council members there that are part-time people. They're not full-time, and that's another thing that you might want to look at down the road, is go with they get $1,000 a month, and maybe pay them more money. If that's the way you want to go.
Okay. All right. We're now getting to the end of our program, and that means that you can have an opportunity to tell voters what it is that you would like them to remember about you when they see your name on the ballot, and why they should vote for you.
Well, we need a change. That's the main thing. And I ran before. I ran on some issues in the past that are still issues in the future. And I believe I'm the best candidate in this position, running for position number 2. And we need to have a new leadership in the council to move the council forward. The city council is doing very, very well, but at the same time, on this position, I think I'm the best choice of the 2, and we need a change. And that's why I decided to run, and that's what I'm here for.
Very good. Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.